want to remind you that we find words in our Bible. Sometimes they take on religious meanings when they are in fact not necessarily religious words, but they just, over the years, one of those words is Pentecost. When we hear the word Pentecost or Pentecostal, we think charismatic or believe in the gifts of the Spirit and operate in the gifts of the Spirit in our life. The word Pentecost simply means 50. It just means 50 days. One of my favorite ones, manna. Manna is a real spiritual word, right? It's Hebrew for what is it? That's just Hebrew, what is it? It's the word manna. So we have other words, justification, sanctification, glorification. We've been talking about them a bunch. Just kind of leading in here, we're going to continue from last week. This is several weeks ago. Justification, if you remember, all of these have very similar meanings. Justification, sanctification, and glorification. This is the process that a person grows in when they're born again. When a person is first saved, they're justified. And justification is you've been delivered from the penalty of sin. Sanctification is you have been delivered from the power of sin, and glorification is you've been delivered from the presence of sin. So justification is when you first get saved and you accept the price that Jesus has paid for you. Sanctification is, we would use the term empowerment. It enables you to walk the victorious life over sin in our lives, though delivered from the power of sin. Sanctification has to do, and we don't talk about this a whole lot in church anymore, and we probably should, but it has to do with, do you remember years ago, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, one of the things that was really stressed in church was holiness. Now, holiness to us today means no makeup, no jewelry, you have to wear your hair a certain way, clothes a certain way, and things like that. It's gotten twisted. But holiness is your lifestyle. The word holiness simply means to be set apart. Means to be different. And it particularly means to be set apart for God's use or for God's glory. And holiness has to do with, like I said, your lifestyle. And what the difference about that is, we have in our Bible, we know in our Bible that all things to us are lawful, but not all things are expedient. The Bible also teaches us not to be a stumbling block to people around us, that although things may be okay for us to do, and the fact that they're not a sin, they may cause somebody else that's a younger Christian to stumble. So if you're mature, then be mature and act in a mature manner so as you won't cause somebody else to stumble. And I think that a lot of our teaching over the years, and what you find where the gospel is concerned, and this dates back to the 30s, 1930s, somewhere in that range, 1930s, 1940s, you see the gospel too often times bounce from ditch to ditch, back to another ditch, instead of kind of staying rightly divided in the middle. And one of the things that we found is in the 30s and 40s, you found a lot of teaching on poverty. And poverty was equated with spirituality. If you were spiritual, then you were poor. If you were poor, then you were more sensitive to spiritual things. And we know that that's not true. Whenever you look in the Word of God, to someone whose life was very close to the things of God, you find them prospering, because God, unlike us, we think of blessings as being individual things. We look at being blessed with certain things or blessed in certain areas of our life. God doesn't look at that way. God looks at when you are born again and born into the kingdom, and God blesses you, it's everything. It's not in this little area, and then you have to work and get blessed in this area. God's blessings, plural, everything that you and I desire and need, are provided for us. We're the ones that categorize them. God doesn't. So when you're blessed of the Lord, remember He's given us all things. He's blessed us with all things. He's blessed us with all things that pertain to life and godliness. So we already have that. We have those things. What we have to do is walk things out and learn how to procure them, which we've talked about before.